Hi there, you lovely fly fishing maniacs. My name is Ken Persson, co-founder of Sameo Sweden. Welcome to the Sameo channel. Last week I got a request from Alexander Angelkovsky to do a video about basics of fly line. And my first impression was that he wanted to know about long bellies, short bellies, different tapers, weight forward and so on. But no, could you please tell me the difference between sinking and intermediate line, and how about sink tip lines? Actually, the answer wasn't that obvious that I thought it would be. I had to rethink a lot of how I fish with floating and sinking lines. So maybe you will too. Tag along!
A sinking fly line sinks, a floating fly line floats, of course. But how do they really affect my fishing? We know that in extremely hot weather the fish tries to stay cool in the deeper pools, closer to the bottom. And in extreme cold it's the same thing, because the temperature usually stays quite stable deep down, while the surface temperatures flexes a lot. It makes sense to search for the fish there. But how about the way we make the flies move and present to the fish? That is the subject for my video today. A floating fly line is the base that most of us use most of the time. It's the perfect line for dry flies and nymphs that we want to present undisturbed by the leader or the line. We can fish with the flies on the surface or below the surface. If we want to, we can either just let it hang there, or we can retrieve it in different ways and speeds. When retrieving a weighted fly, it will move upwards toward the surface, and on the stops it will, depending on how weighted it is, gently swim down again or slowly just hover. The floating line is a line for dry flies, nymphs and streamers as well. You can use it in streams and you can use it in still water. Sinking fly lines sink, of course, and they are mostly used to present streamers and other flies that you want to control when you retrieve. The line comes in different sink rates, from the superfast line that sinks 7, 8 or more inches per second to the intermediate or slow sink that sinks from 1/2 inch per second to 1.5 inch per second. The most common sink rate for normal sinking lines is about 3 or 4 inches per second. Since the whole line sinks, it can be used to control and make the flies move in totally different patterns compared to the jigging motions with the floating line. The slow sinking intermediate fly line you can use to control the flies just below the surface or very slowly if you want to. It's very popular amongst fly fishers that fish in open water with waves that would interfere with the movement of the fly if using a floating fly line. And of course, it's also a way to experiment with different types of weighted flies to get different moving patterns. The sink tip fly line is a kind of hybrid between a floating fly line and a sinking one. It's basically a floating line with a sinking front. It can be a great line to get the fly down just below the surface, and you can fish the fly in even more different patterns. There is also different types of poly leaders that can be used in the same way. Poly leaders is basically just a short, thin fly line that you can add in front of your ordinary floating fly line, and you can make it to behave like a sink tip or even an intermediate tip fly line. You can put a floating poly leader on a sinking fly line to get one result. You can use a sinking poly leader on a floating or even an intermediate line to get totally another. Different weighted flies or even floating flies like booby flies can be controlled with sinking, sink tip or sinking poly leaders to give you lots of variation and ways of fishing. I say let's go crazy and be creative by using different lines and poly leaders, and also of course different weights on the flies to make your presentations just the way you want it to be. All the types of fly lines has their pros and their cons, and in the end they're just tools for you to explore your personal fly fishing style. So buddy, thanks for watching. If you like this video and you want more, please hit the subscribe button, and if you like, give me a thumbs up. I would love to get a response from you, so don't be shy in the comments below. See ya!